Morning, church. You know, we really are blessed here, and I hope we never take for granted the song leaders that we're blessed with. Barrett and Terry do such an amazing job in leading our singing. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but back 100 years ago or so, when there were a lot of circuit preachers who were going out and holding meetings and things, they would take a song leader with them, so that they would have somebody who could lead spirited singing and really get everybody in the mood to worship God and listen to His Word when it came time to preach. I've spoken at times when the song service was rather funereal, I would say. And it was pretty easy for people to kind of go to sleep in a situation like that. And I'm really grateful that we're blessed to have men like Barrett and Terry who lead our singing. I want to mention to you that this evening and for the next several Sunday evenings, I'm going to be sharing with you slides that I took of the Holy Land when Carol and I had an opportunity to make a couple of trips over there. And tonight in particular, we're going to be looking at pictures of some of the crosses that were perhaps ones like Jesus was hung on. We don't know exactly what that cross was like, but I want to show you some representations of them. I think you'll find it very interesting. And then we're going to take a little trip to Caesarea, a place that shows up a lot in the book of Acts, but it's kind of typical of a Roman-made town back at that time. And I think you'll find that very interesting as well. For the last several weeks, we've been talking about the devil's doorways. The fact that there are certain sins that if you or I commit them, it just opens the door to a mess, to stepping into all kinds of other problems. You know, probably the pin-up situation for this, of course, is David and Bathsheba. I mean, David looks on this young lady, lusts after her, sleeps with her, commits adultery, and then from there you go to he's got to deceive her husband. He'll order his murder. He's got to lie about his involvement in this, and it just goes on with opening all these ugly doors that come about because he stepped through that first one. Well, what I would like for us to do for the next several weeks is look at what I want to call some doorways to the beautiful, as characterized by what Paul says in Galatians chapter 5, verses 22 and 23, in his description of the fruit of the Spirit. I believe in our lives are dueling doorways. And, you know, as I was thinking about how to characterize this, it dawned on me about some of the doors that I've stepped through into places that I really didn't know, and the shock both ways that brought about. I've traveled to India a couple of times. First time I went to India, we landed in Bombay at night. It was dark, smelly, difficult really to get a view of what was going on around me, but it was because there's not a light in a third world country like there is here. But I could tell that what we were getting into was something else. We spent the night in a hotel, got up the next morning, we were going to go to breakfast, and I walked out into the street, and that's what it looks like in Mumbai when you step out into the street. I'd been in third world countries, I'd never been in a place like that. Crowded, dirty, literally smelly, everything needing paint, things falling apart, just an awful really situation. You know, Doug Ham was here a few weeks ago, and Doug was talking about this work that we're getting involved with in India and what a challenging and good work that is. But honestly, when I stepped through the door and stepped out on that street for the first time, looked around, I thought, man, it's like, is this how the devil runs things? Because it's so different from anything they'll experience here. On the other hand, last weekend, Carol and I were able to go to Eureka Springs for a couple of days, celebrating our 51st wedding anniversary. And south of Eureka Springs, about 4 miles on Highway 23, is this place called Quigley Castle, We'd stayed there in Eureka Springs before, had seen the signs, never stopped. But my sister had gone there. And she said, Dan, when you go to, next time you go to Eureka Springs, you need to go down and see Quigley Castle. So it's like 4 miles out of town. We drove down there, and you wind through a copse of trees on a dirt road back up to this parking area. And there's trees along one side of the parking area, and there's a gate that you walk through. And I didn't know what to expect. Carol didn't know what to expect. We'd never been there before. We paid our fee to step through the gate, walked into this beautiful garden that you see, I mean, just absolutely beautiful. One of those places that you just want to go to and sit down and just kind of just enjoy the beauty of what God's created. Mrs. Quigley, the lady that kind of built all of this, was really into collecting rocks and shells from all over the world. She would build flower pots and tables and chairs and all kinds of stuff and fill them with flowers and arranged all these plants and things. And it's absolutely gorgeous. Butterflies fluttering around, beautiful flowers, just amazing. I wasn't prepared exactly for how really beautiful it was. And really, see, there's the dueling doorways. You can step through some doors and you step into some stuff and you go, oh my, my, my. And you can step through other doors and go, wow. And I believe that's the way it is in our life spiritually. Depending on which doorway we choose to step through, we're going to see some things that really break our hearts and maybe turn our stomachs. And on the other hand, get to enjoy some really, really beautiful, beautiful things. In Galatians 5, verse 22 and 23, Paul lists what he calls the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. Why? Because those are exactly the characteristics that we need to find in our lives that's going to bless our lives and bless the lives of others. Those are the doorways to some beautiful, beautiful things. Now, this fruit principle is very important. And it's referred to again and again in the New Testament. In particular, I want you to think about what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 7, beginning of verse 17 through verse 20. Every healthy tree bears good fruit. The diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree can't bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, you will recognize them by their fruits. So, when Paul talks about the fruit of the Spirit, what's he talking about? He's really talking about how you affect your life and how you affect the lives of others in your interactions with them. In a very real sense, he's talking about your personal spiritual legacy. That's your fruit. And so as people look at your life, as they think about their interactions with you, as they see how you interact with others, as they watch the decisions you make, and as you make decisions, you are bearing fruit. You're building a legacy. Now, it could be a positive one, it could be a negative one. Okay, again, it very much goes back to which doorways you choose to walk through. But this fruit principle is incredibly relevant. Very important, because it's true for every single solitary one of us. We all are bearing fruit. Hopefully it's good fruit. Hopefully it's healthy fruit. Now, I want to spend some time in laying some groundwork here for a look at the fruit of the Spirit by noticing a contrast, and I think it's a very important one, that Paul makes here in Galatians 5. In verse 19, he says, now the works of the flesh are evident. And what he's talking about there are devil's doorways. Man, if you walk this way, in sexual sin, envy, and all kinds of things like that, you are going to find yourself cut off from God. The works of the flesh. Then in verse 22, he'll speak of the fruit of the Spirit. Now, What I want you to notice, because it really hit me as I was thinking about this, the contrast between works and fruit. And I don't think his wording here is accidental at all. I think he's using exactly the words he wants to use when he speaks of the works of the flesh, but the fruit of the Spirit. Sin, brethren, is work. I know people like to think that sin's the easy way out, that sin's the pleasurable way to go. I would argue that it's quite the opposite. That you really have to work at sin. You've got to work at it, and it will work you over on top of that. If you have some woman out here and she's having an affair, okay, she has to constantly be thinking about how she is going to cover up this relationship that she has with this guy who's not her husband. She not only has to conceal it from her husband and her family, she's got to conceal it from this other fellow and his wife. She has to handle the situation at work, with friends, with people that she knows. How are they going to arrange these meetings? How are they going to cover these up? What kind of excuses is she going to come up with? You know, the lies that she's going to have to tell to cover why she's not at a certain place when she said she was going to be there, and on and on and on. Man, sin's work. Don't kid yourself. It's work. Addiction. I don't care if a person's addicted to cocaine or heroin or meth or one of the opioids or whatever it might be. That's work. Man, you are constantly, if you're trying to conceal your addiction, I mean, think about the trouble you have to go to while you're trying to conceal your addiction. If the addiction's got control of you and you're no longer concealing it, the bottom line is it's running your life, which is exactly what Paul talks about in Romans chapter 6. It's now your master. It runs you. And so you are constantly thinking about, how am I going to feed this craving that my body now demands be met? And bless their hearts, man, for people who are caught up, for instance, in that opioid addiction, I mean, it dominates, it runs your life. It's work. And here's the thing about it. When the devil runs your life, man, no days off, no weekends off. It's not like, well, yeah, man, I got to deal with this addiction Monday through Friday, but at least I get weekends. No, it doesn't work that way. Christmas, yeah, man, craving's still there. Thanksgiving, craving's still there. July 4th, craving's still there. Labor Day, yep, no time off. It dominates your life constantly. One of the beautiful things, if you'll think about it, when God gave his law to his people, he gave them a day off every week, and he gave them weeks off at a time to celebrate feasts and all. He gave us recreation time. Devil doesn't do that. Devil doesn't give you days off. Man, when he's in control, he works you all the time. Again, no holidays. No days off, and I'm losing my voice. Some water. Fruit, on the other hand, comes naturally. Think about it. Does a pear tree have to go, man, see, what is my job? Produces pears. Peach tree, peaches. Cherry tree, cherries. Apple tree, apples, and so on. I mean, that's how it works. It does it naturally. It doesn't have to work at it. It's just a part of who that tree is, what that tree does. And remember, this is the fruit of the Spirit. This is not our fruit, and that's really important. Okay, the fruit that Paul talks about, the fruit that's to be seen in our lives, these doorways to the beautiful, are courtesy of the presence of the Spirit in your life. You're honoring his word. The pause that refreshes. Honey, I can stand here and hold this thing, or thank you, baby. Thank you. A Spirit-controlled life is going to produce beautiful fruit. Beautiful fruit. And I'm not going to say that it is effortlessly, because it's not effortlessly, but it is naturally. And that's so important, okay? Now, I want you to notice here something that Paul says, the fruit of the Spirit. And I hear this misused a lot. You know, it's kind of like people talking about the book of Revelations. There's no S on Revelations. It's the book of Revelation. Now, there are revelations contained within the book of Revelation, but it's the book of Revelation, singular, not plural. This is not the fruits of the Spirit. This is the fruit of the Spirit. The fruits is singular, the ingredients are plural, and I would liken it to a cake. Okay, what's it take to make a cake? Well, you got flour, right? You got eggs, you got butter, you got some kind of shortening, you got sugar. I can't say that flour is a cake. It's an ingredient in a cake, but it's not a cake. Eggs, they're not a cake. There may be ingredients in a cake, but they're not a cake. When you combine those all together and you mix them up, you get something delicious. From these very diverse ingredients, you get something very enjoyable. A cake. The fruit of the Spirit is the same way. These aren't fruits of the Spirit, because I really believe that these are intended to be seen in a mixture in which they all blend into one another and feed upon one another, and I believe they do, and I want to point that out as we look at these. That what you find in the fruit of the Spirit is a beautiful mix of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and faithfulness and gentleness and self-control, all blended together in this beautiful mix that we call the fruit of the Spirit. But you see, it's not just agape. It's not just macrothumia. It's not just gentleness or self-control. It's all of these combined together into something that is just glorious. It's wonderful. When we talk about the fruit of the Spirit, I really believe that really what we're talking about is Jesus. When you look at Jesus, you see, I believe, personified the fruit of the Spirit. What's the fruit of the Spirit going to look like in your life or in mine? Well, look at the life of Jesus. And I think you see, again, lived and personified what the fruit of the Spirit looks like. And so I just listed these and some examples in Jesus' life in each case. Love, agape. John 15:13. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And that's right, isn't it? And Jesus, what's he going to do? Lay down his life for you and for me. There's a transcendently glorious picture of what love means in Jesus. Joy. In Luke 17:17-23, he has sent out the 70 and they've come back and they're reporting, wow, you know, we've seen tremendous evidence of the power of the Spirit. We've seen people healed. We've seen all kinds of things happen. And Jesus says, yeah, I see Satan. And he's being cast out of heaven. Fall out he's just celebrating. He's full of joy. Wow, my people are preaching and people's lives are being changed, and he's just happy. John 14:27. He's meeting with his apostles. They're all shook up. They know something bad's fixing to happen. Jesus, the way he's been talking, but he says to them what? I want to give you peace. My peace I'm going to give you. Not like the world gives. I'm going to give you a peace. Why? Because he possessed that peace. You can't, when Jesus in Matthew chapter 5 says, blessed are the peacemakers, you can't make peace if you're not at peace. I really believe that. You've got to be at peace before you can make peace. Jesus was at peace. And so he could promise his apostles peace. Patience. Mark 9:19. Man, he comes off the Mount of Transfiguration Comes down to this little town on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee, and his apostles have made a mess. Here's this man with a son who's trying to kill himself, throwing himself into fire, and all he's demon-possessed, and the apostles haven't been able to cast that demon out. And you remember, oh, how long, he says, shall I put up with you? He's so frustrated with them. But he doesn't shut it down, walk away. Doesn't say, I've had it with you guys, enough of this, I'm tired of it. No, he is patient with them. He continues to work with them in spite of his frustration with their lack of faith and lack of understanding. Okay, he is the epitome of patience, of kindness. Matthew 14, 13 through 21, the feeding of the 5,000. Why does he feed them? Moved with compassion. He cares about these folks. Now again, he could have said, hey, they chose to walk out here. Nobody made them. Yeah, there's no 7-Eleven around the corner. They're going to go hungry. Tough, that's their problem. No, he makes it his problem. He's kind. Goodness. Matthew 19:14, that beautiful picture. Suffer the little children to come to me. Come on, guys. Talking to his apostles. They kind of serve like bodyguards, you can tell. No, leave Jesus alone. No, he says, let him come. Let him come. Why do those children come to him? Because he's good. And they know he's good. They sense he's good. They're comfortable with him and around him. And he's comfortable with them. He loves them. They love him. He is good. To me, that's an epitome of good. Faithful. Matthew 26:39, in the garden, what's he praying? Yet not my will, but yours be done. If this is what has to happen, this is what has to happen. I'll do it. Gentleness. John 7:53 through 8:11, that woman taken in the act of adultery, dragged out in all their shame. These people waiting to see if Jesus is going to demand that she be punished with the punishment of the law specified, stoned. And notice how he deals with her, how gentle he is with her. Woman, neither do I condemn you. Go your way, sin no more. Gentle. Self-control. Luke 4, 1 through 13. 40 days he's been without food. Here comes the evil one. Well now, hey, how about turning these stones into bread? Nope. Well, let's take an easy way out here. Just fall down and worship me and I'll give you everything around. Nope. You see, self-control. He goes without food for 40 days. If I went without food for 40 hours, get out of the way. I'm going to be hungry. I'm going to want to eat, so are you. He goes 40 days. Self-control. What I want us to see and what we're going to look at over the next few weeks is that the fruit of the Spirit opens doorways to the beautiful. It does. The devil's doorways, they open the door to some ugly, repulsive, heartbreaking stuff. They do. But the Spirit's doorways, that fruit of the Spirit opens doorways to the beautiful. And I believe that one beauty feeds upon another and produces another and so on. It's kind of a glorious connection that just continues to weave and move through our lives. And I want us to look at that. God really does want your life to be beautiful. He wants your life to be fruitful. He didn't design this world for you to live in it hurt and frustrated and brokenhearted and miserable. He didn't. I mean, look at where he put Adam and Eve in a garden built for them. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. Walk with him. They messed it up. He didn't. That's not his plan. His plan for your life is something beautiful. And a part of that beauty is the gift that comes with the fruit of the Spirit. Because you see, you get to open doors into really pretty places. Take people to very, very special special places in their lives. Think about the people who have loved you. I mean, really loved you. People who have been patient with you. People who have been kind to you. And the difference it made in your life, the beautiful difference it made in your life. See, that's the fruit that we're talking about. That's the fruit that he wants you to open your life to. This morning, if you're ready to confess Jesus, Son of God, put on your Lord in baptism, become a part of his family, he promises his Spirit will come to dwell in you, and with that will come the fruit from his presence. We can help you in any way. Won't you come while we stand and while we sing?